dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Hello, welcome to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio American Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. We have quite the lineup show for you today. It's going to be great fun. Let's get started. And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio American Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides, and we're having a wonderful conversation about international economics. Don't tune out just now. It's fascinating and you're going to love it, with Liberty Nation's economics editor, guru and expert on all things fiscal, Mr. Andrew Moran. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Thank you for having me. I wouldn't say I'm amazing or anything.
I didn't say you're amazing. To me, he's pretty amazing. He has the numbers at his fingertips and his fingertips at the end of a Google search. So let's carry on with this.
AI, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Oh dear. No. So what we want to talk about today, Andrew, is China, and that's the overall theme. What's happening with the Chinese economy? Because I mentioned to you not long ago that it seems to me that, and I'm not an economist and I don't follow the data other than I read your pieces on libertynation.com. But it seemed to me that China is slowly slipping into what Japan used to be, the Japanification of the Chinese economy. And you said that that's something that's actually doing a buzz around now. What are the data points involved in that?
Well, so there are many things. So first is that China is actually facing deflation. That's something that Japan has struggled with for a long time, not so much as of late, but overall, yes, you see the last several months of CPI data and even the producer price index, it's all slipping into deflation.
Treat me like I'm a rather slow 5-year-old and explain deflation to me.
Price deflation is when you have declining prices across the board. So there's not a lot of consumption going on. There's a lot of domestic demand happening across the countries. Therefore, prices are falling. But even on a foreign demand level too, you see, which is another aspect of this Japanification, you're seeing foreign demand for Chinese goods actually decline. So, for example, the Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, they have two versions. They have a government version, they have a private sector version. Both show contraction, meaning that perhaps President Donald Trump's tariffs are weighing on the Chinese economies and its manufacturing prowess and exports. Another thing is the aging population. Japan for so long has struggled with aging demographics. China, despite its recent endeavors of, let's say, removing the one-child policy and President Xi Jinping calling people saying, hey, have some babies, nobody's having babies at all. So those are the three aspects of the weighing on the Chinese economy.
So there's actually, on this thing about the shrinking population that they're having in China. So when they introduced the one-child policy, there were some exemptions to that, and that was if you were a farmer and your first child was a daughter, then you could have another one. And if you had plenty of money, you would take on a second wife, as it were, and then have another child. But this was very limited to people, and of course, tragically resulted in a mass infanticide of unborn girls. But what happened was it became so cultural that to only have one child across the board for most people, and then you ended up with it was the 8-4-2-1 situation. So there's the 8 great grandparents, the 4 grandparents, 2 parents, and then it's down to the 1. Now, because of how the Chinese system is set up, that meant that the one at the bottom there, the one child that they end up having, has to essentially support everything going up those tiers. And so you think, well, it's better to have more kids, right? But these people, they're too busy to have kids because they've got all this family to support. It's kind of put them into almost, I would say, a bottleneck in terms of being able to get out of it. But I mean, and Japan's not really managed to turn that around either, has it?
No, I would say most developed countries have struggled to encourage more people having children, no matter what they're doing. Even these Eastern European countries that have been open about trying to welcome all people to have more kids, or change a tax policy, it's not working at all. Nobody wants to have kids these days Maybe because the high cost of living, maybe this whole the climate change and for years we've been talking about overpopulation, how we need to depopulate the world. It's all backfiring on everybody.
Yeah.
You need to have the children if you want to sustain all these entitlement programs and the economy and everything that we've become so accustomed to for the last several decades.
So let's go back specifically to China. We've got the deflation. We've got a disastrous birth rate.
Don't forget the debt. The debt is another thing you have to.
Right, the debt. Tell me about the Chinese debt.
So the debt, the federal debt isn't so much a problem. It's the municipal debt at the state and local level. They have really accumulated so much debt to facilitate stimulus projects, to create more infrastructure. So when if you go on X and you see all these wondrous things that China has all over the country, that has been fostered by debt. And the government actually recently came out, probably a year ago, I should say, and they said that we're not going to bail out any local governments anymore. It's all up to them to pay off these debts. So what are they doing? They're issuing more bonds. But with the global capital markets already inundated with a huge supply of government bonds and debt, no one is buying it. So that's going to cause even a greater issue. Another issue in China is the collapse of the residential property market. Property values have gone down 20% since the days of when that property collapse happened a couple of years ago. And then, of course, the one that happened before the coronavirus pandemic. So you're having a cascading of issues festering in the world's second largest economy. And, with Japanification, I guess it's going to happen in the next few years unless they turn things around, which at this point doesn't seem very likely.
So I have some insight into what's been happening with that accumulated debt from the provinces. Having spent many, many years in China, so what happens is the central government, when it's having, let's say, cash issues, it releases a massive round of quantitative easing. Then that gets funneled out to the state-owned or state-adjacent banks, let's call them. And then the banks have a responsibility to give the lion's share of this new fiscal product that they have out to state-owned enterprises. Now, state-owned enterprises they're the really big ones. They're the ones that have full government support. They're the ones that are placeholders for the cousin of a cousin of a cousin of a third cousin twice removed. And these people have to be paid. They have to have the nice offices. They have to have the nice cars with the drivers. And so this money is just being pushed out to these state-owned enterprises on the understanding that because it's a state-owned enterprise, even though it is technically a business, they never have to pay back the money. Yeah. So the money doesn't come back in. Once it gets loaned out, it's just gone. It has to go on somebody's books. And who is that? Well, that's the state and province books that were so generous in feeding out the government money under instructions to these state-owned enterprises. It's a bit of a pyramid scheme, I think, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely right. I remember writing this article many years ago before the coronavirus pandemic, and it talks about how the Chinese economy is suffering from the zombie economy because these companies, no matter what, they will get bailed out. If a smaller company fails, it will just be absorbed by a larger, as you say, state-owned enterprise. So so you have the Japanification, but you have the zombification of the Chinese economy. And the other challenge too is that for the People's Bank of China, the country's central bank, is that they've already stimulated the economy to death during the coronavirus pandemic, and they're trying to do it again during this face-off with President Trump. I don't know how much more they have left in the arsenal to achieve this, but so far, I mean, the numbers point that they'll able to achieve the central government's GDP growth rate, but whether that's based on actual fundamental growth, that is doubtful at this point. But for the deflation part, that has been really something to watch unfold in real time. And if that happens the next year, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's assertion that that's actually in a depression, that could be actually a reality.
We're going to continue talking about what could happen to China after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.